One thing that's true for all moms, we have a lot of stories to tell. Some are silly, some are gross, some bring us to tears. With each story that's shared, another mom feels a little less alone. So join us as we laugh, learn, and grow together. It's the iMom Podcast. Welcome to this week's episode of the iMom Podcast. We're here again together. Abby, Chloe, who's with child. If you missed that announcement a few episodes ago, Chloe is having a baby boy. Congratulations.
Yay.
Susan and Megan also with us. This week's episode is called Parenting a Bossy Child, and I am. So the story is from me. I have a very, very bossy kid. My firstborn is, he just loves to tell anybody who will listen what to do. And mostly his little brother. And we went for a walk the other night. He really likes to go for walks with me. And so we were walking and I was like, dude, listen, you got to ease up. You have to lay off your brother. And I said, why do you do it? And he's like, I just wish, in a nutshell, what he's saying is I want him to be more like me. But he's like, I wish he would be more organized. And I wish that, he doesn't do the things that need to be done. And in his defense, they share a bedroom. And the little one does not have awareness, period, really. But like, he's the kid that when he gets home from school, you see the trail of where he's been. There is something dropped in every room, one sock here, one sock there, something that has made its way under the couch. Like, he's just not mindful of stuff like that. And so, they share a room, so I get it. But he talks about clothes laying around the bedroom. And I said, listen, I don't need you to tell him what to do. That is my job. It's my job to help him learn to pick up after himself. I talked about the difference between trying to form a good habit and needing discipline, because he's like, well, you don't punish him for leaving his clothes around. And later on, I told him, what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And he goes, well, I'm going to say it. He goes, how is that working for you? And I said, excuse me?
So he's basically bossing you too.
Yeah. And later on, he apologized. I mean, he knew as soon as he said it that he wasn't supposed to say it. But he was just like, how's that working out for you, huh? And basically later on, I told him, I was like, I want you to ease up because I want you and your brother to be friends.
Yeah.
I want him to like you. And I think that by bossing him around and always telling him what to do, he's not going to like you. He has to be around you because you're brothers right now. You live in the same room and under the same roof. But I want him to like you. And so I'm just trying to help you, earn his respect and earn his friendship. So that is our chat today, is what do you do when you have a kid who is bossy? I don't know if any of the things, actually, after researching for this, I think that half the things I said to him were wrong.
No, I think they're right. I think that's really fair.
Well, yes and no. And
you don't want him to resent his older brother because he's always being nagged.
Yes. So, well, first things first. Chloe, where are you in the lineup of kids in your family?
I'm the youngest, 2 older brothers.
So, were you bossed around?
Yes.
Would you like to elaborate on that?
It didn't really bother me.
You say no because they're going to come and beat me up.
No, yeah. It didn't really bother me. I really wanted them to like me, and I still do.
Well, the other day, speaking of it didn't bother me, the other day, we had to take 2 cars to church, and I said, one of you, I have to go grocery shopping afterwards, and he has donut duty after church, and so you guys can pick which parent you want to go home with. And my older son goes, I'll go home with you, and Graham will stay and help with donuts. And I said, the child can decide for himself. And he looked at me, he goes, he's right. So he's like not even making his own decision.
I don't think my brothers really cared that much. So when they did tell me things, I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
You got it.
So you're okay with being bossed around?
Yeah, because I don't think they cared. I think my oldest brother bossed my middle brother around more than he bossed me around.
Do you think it's like
the baby?
Yeah. He bossed me around more when I was older. Like when I was like dating, he's like, don't date him. Like
Megan, you're the oldest. Are you a boss?
Always. Just kidding. I would probably say I bossed my sister, my younger sister. She's 2 years younger than me, so I know I bossed her around probably a lot. And we are extremely different. So kind of like your son with your younger son, I was like, why isn't she doing this? And why isn't she doing that? Blah, blah. However, now I feel like I am no one's boss. I feel like I have a lot of bosses.
But are you seeing it in your firstborn?
Yes. So my second is only 9 months old. So
He does not pick up after himself.
Well, it's more of my second is now starting to get more interactive and more mobile. And so my older son thinks that he can start like telling him what to do and things like that. Like the other day, my second was kind of babbling and my oldest turned to my youngest and was like, stop making that noise. And I was like, oh my gosh.
He doesn't even speak yet.
He's trying to learn how to talk. Gosh.
He's doing the best he can.
Yeah, like he's working on it, okay? His teeth are coming in. He's starting to form words. Leave him alone.
All right, then, Susan, as the mother of a self-admitted bossy girl, what did you notice? Did you notice, like, so did Megan boss Emily around but not Mark? Like, what is it, a gender thing?
There's that fine line between bullying, bossing, and
helping.
Helping.
Yeah.
And a lot of it for Megan was helping. She was a girl. She was very aware of the rules, and she would inform me, Mom, Emily's doing this, or Marky's doing this, or Marky's crying, you need to get him. And it was her just reporting in as the resident, by the time we had
the town squire.
Yeah,
nice, Megan.
So, and I probably encouraged it. Hey, Megan, I have to go take a shower.
Mm-hmm.
Emily's in the pack and play. Don't put anything in the pack and play. I'll be back in 20 minutes. So I encouraged her, and she'd come running to the bathroom and go, Emily's crying.
Yeah.
So some
Get
of it
that
we
kid
create.
to be quiet.
Yeah. So some of it we kind of create ourselves. In the oldest, I think. It is
so
the older
too.
thing.
I think so too. And I think part of it is that they want to be helpful.
Yes.
And so they do things to encourage the younger ones to fall in line or to participate, or I'll say, hey, where's your brother? And because I'm saying, where is he? I'm giving him some authority over him. Yeah.
And as the
creating
oldest,
a beast.
they feel mature. They know the rules, They're just smarter than their siblings. So they might as well just tell everybody.
So I don't know if Emily listens to this podcast, but I fear that my younger one is not developing the skills he needs to as far as decision making and things like that, because he doesn't have to make all these choices because his brother's making the choices for him. Do you think that you've seen that, or in like adolescence, did you see that?
So Megan, you can weigh in on this, but Emily was such a different personality and she had opinions. So I don't feel that Megan ever answered for her and made those kind of choices for her.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that, Megan?
No, I don't think so. I think I do tend to think like, would we be so different today if I hadn't bossed her around as much and she didn't want to be like a completely opposite person? Like, is she completely different than I am and we're complete opposites because she didn't want to heed my bossing?
No.
Or is she just different because she was different? It's like chicken or egg.
Nature versus nurture,
Right.
where the nurturer was.
But I don't think you
really
tried to
bossy.
make choices for her because she was so different. She made her own choices. I don't ever feel like you were saying, Emily, should do this or needs to do this.
I feel like I'm very stereotypical oldest, cookie cutter, like conventional oldest, like my parents or whatever. And I feel like she has made it a point to be very different. Mm-hmm. So, is it because she was like annoyed by my behavior and I was like, you need to fall in line, blah,
Maybe
blah, blah.
a little bit of both.
Or, yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about boys versus girls then. Do you think that there's a difference in how you parent a bossy girl versus a bossy boy? And I'll expound on this if anybody doesn't have a
since
thought.
you all only have boys, including Chloe.
My son is not bossy.
I don't know. He's telling you not to eat chicken.
Yeah, true.
Well, I mean, so when boys try to direct other people's behavior, they're seen as exhibiting leadership skills, and they're praised for it. Meanwhile, it's getting better, but girls are seen as, if you're bossy, then other people won't want to play with you, won't want to hang out with you. And so that underlying message to girls is you should care more about being liked than being a leader. So when you see your daughter being bossy, do you correct in the same way that you correct a boy?
I guess it's just the tone, because if it's abrasive in nature, whether it's boy or girl, that needs to be, because we want to be kind. But if they're executing leadership skills,
that's totally foreign to me what you said, Abby. I did never register in my head, Megan, you can't be bossy because you won't be liked. So it wouldn't have been a boy or girl thing to me.
You think even if they're talking about at school, you know, like, oh, the bossy girl on the playground, people aren't going to like her?
No, what I think the problem is maybe girls tend to be a little bit more mean in tone. When I was a camp counselor, I'll just take it from my camp counselor thing because I had boys and girls different years. Boys tend to bow up and bully a little bit more, whereas girls tend to be mean when they're bossy. It's more in their tone and what they say, more cutting. And you see it even at a very young age, they develop where boys, it's all about testosterone and bowing up, and it gets to be a little more bullying to me.
So let's talk about why bossy kids are bossy. I did some research and found a few different reasons. I'm not quite sure why my child fits into one of these, but Megan, I want you to listen and figure out for yourself maybe why because I'm a second born. I don't think I was bossy growing up. I was the one that was bossed around. So Megan, it's time for you to figure out which one of these you were. So bossy kids are sometimes bossy because we're giving them too much choice. So if mom and dad say, what time do you want to go to bed? What do you want for dinner? They're bossy because they don't feel like someone is caring for them. And so they feel like they have to exercise that. Another reason is that we're parenting like we're afraid of them. I don't think that was the case for you, Megan, probably. I can't imagine Mark and Susan doing that. Like we're negotiating. We're making everything work for them. We're not allowing them to feel upset, kind of like we are catering to them. And so they feel like they can be bossy. Third one is that it could be anxiety. If you observe your child being bossy or meddling in things that don't apply to him, he might be dealing with anxiety. I think that might be a little bit in my kid because the need to control is driven by fear. And so you just have to reassure him, hey, I'm in charge. Everything's okay. And the last one, I'm praying that this is the case with my kid, but I'm not quite sure. It could be a sign of giftedness.
Yeah.
They could be gifted.
They know what's right.
Yeah. Well,
conviction.
If they're playing a game, like this article that I was reading said, if your child loves to add rules to games, it might be that the game is not interesting to them because they are more advanced in that game. Or if they need to organize, it's because their brain is at a point where they see where something could be improved, where the other kids their age maybe are just there to play. So it could be a sign of giftedness. I'm sure that's you, Megan.
That's James. He's constantly organizing things. He's a genius.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that about myself. I don't think it was the first one because of like the rules, because I had a lot of rules. Yeah. So that certainly wasn't the case. What was the other option?
Well, if your parents parented you like they were afraid of you, were they afraid of you?
No, definitely not.
A little bit of anxiety.
Honestly, I think it was just because I thought I knew what was right, and I was very much a rule follower too, and she was not. And so I was like kind of tired of her getting in trouble or like thinking she was going to get in trouble. And so I was just kind of like, lock it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be some of the case with my son too. Maybe a mixture of some of these, but I do think that he has a very strong sense of right and wrong, wants to please by following the rules. And when somebody else doesn't, there's a little bit of bitterness that kicks in. Like, no, I'm following the rules, so you need to also, because why are you getting away with it? Why are you not getting in trouble when you don't pick up your clothes?
So kind of that they're a black and white personality.
Justice, yes.
Yeah. And so why aren't you being black and white? You need to, it's right.
Yeah.
It's like that the four corners, and they're in that get it done right corner.
Yeah.
And why isn't everybody in the get it done right corner?
Yeah. Where, I compared it to in the house, when I walk through the room and there is something on the ground, like a broken leaf that someone tracked in from the outside, I'm like, why am I the only one that picks up the broken leaf on the floor, the little speck of whatever? And my husband's like, I didn't see it. And I totally believe that he did not see it. That is my older son and my younger son. The little one just doesn't see it. It does not register with him. Meanwhile, the bigger one, whatever is bothering him, he thinks everyone sees it and he's the only one that cares,
Yeah.
So it's a lot of what's going on inside that makes it then spill over, I think, into the bossiness.
Can it just be confidence too? You know what's right around, like you said, you know the rules, and so you don't mind telling people.
Well, and I think that's a good point, because one way to parent a bossy child is to figure out different words to use. I mean, I would never say to my kid, "You're so bossy."
Yeah.
I wouldn't. But what are some words that you can say that empower your child to realize their strengths instead of look at this characteristic as a weakness. Like you could say, well, that's a strong opinion. Where did you come up with that? Or you're very assertive. How can we be kinder with our words? So it's like you're identifying this bossy, the way that this bossiness is coming out, and then you're tweaking it to be something that people can
because there is that skill of like being the person in the room that other people feel safe around. Responsible, yeah. So it's like you don't want to, push that out of your kid, but you do want to teach them how to, wield that gift.
And you don't want them going to school and then bossing everyone in the class around and driving the teacher nuts.
Yeah. Well,
what's interesting about my kid is like, I think he's becoming bossy because he's starting to boss his younger brother around, but we're having talks with him about like at school and with friends being a leader and not a follower, because he would follow like another little boy in his class off the side of a cliff. Like he would never dare boss anyone at school around. So that's what's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
The thing is about being bossy at school, it's not usually that the child is being dominant. That's the problem. It is that they're seen as overstepping their perceived status. So it's like they want to be bossy without being respected or liked. They want to be the boss. If someone came into your workplace and started telling you what to do, you'd be like, who are you? And, meanwhile, if Susan came to you and said, here, do this, this, and this, Chloe, you would say, got it. When do you need it done by? And it's because she has earned your respect. You like her. So it's not that a child cannot take the lead on the playground. It's that they have to earn the admiration of their classmates before they do that.
Yeah. And how do you communicate that to a child?
Excellent question.
I think in some things you could do, if it gets to be a problem, I have to say, look, there is a boss on the playground. It's the teacher. And you have to let them be the boss. Now, if you see a child doing something they're not supposed to, you can go to the teacher if you feel like the child's going to hurt themselves and say, hey, so-and-so is doing this. If you're constantly doing it, maybe you're over-policing. And it's not you're not the assistant deputy, in other words.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good way to say that.
Well, I think that it's reminding them what a leader is. Being a leader isn't just about giving orders. It's about helping the people on your team grow into the best version of themselves, develop their strength and build other people up. So if you want to be a leader, it's not just do this, do that. It's helping other people and serving other people.
Really listen to your kids, because some moms teach their kids manners and things, more rules than other kids. And so they are going to come in contact with kids at school who don't have those rules. And then in their head, they're applying their family rules to the public, which some families have a higher bar. And if you're one of those families helping your child understand, hey, we have a really high bar of respect and kindness and manners. You may not see that at school because those kids haven't been taught. It's really not your job to teach them.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing that I've been talking about how to parent a bossy child, the mistake that I maybe made based on what I read is if you tell your child no one's going to be your friend if you're bossy, where I said, I want you guys to be friends and he's not going to want to be your friend. If your child is a natural leader and just hasn't figured out how to really work that skill, he's going to be left thinking that there's something wrong with him. No one's going to want to be your friend if you are doing this thing that comes naturally to you.
Yeah.
So that's something that I need to figure out. I don't think I've done irreparable damage with my kid yet, but like you always say, Susan, I think it's something like you have to ponder your child and figure out why are you being bossy, or why are you stepping up and being the most powerful kid in the room?
Yeah.
What is it about your personality that makes this come out? Is it a sense of fairness? Well, remind him that other kids might want to be in charge. That's
and
fair.
Especially when it's the older sibling, reminding them, hey, your brother is 2 years younger than him.
Yes.
When you were at this age, you weren't as put together as you are now.
Yeah.
So, we have to give him time to grow.
I have to remind him of that all the time. I have to remind myself of that all the time.
Yeah.
I think parents, sometimes we forget that our kids are at different developmental stages and we want them just to it's easier if everyone has the same rules and the same expectations. But it's hard for our kids to not have those same same expectations, I suppose. Yeah. If you have a bossy child, when do you see it coming out the most? Tell us in the link in the show notes, and not to be bossy, but we would appreciate it if you'd give us a 5-star review. Do it now. And comment so that other moms can find us too. And thanks for listening.
Oh man, that's funny.
Thanks for listening to the iMom podcast. iMom is the motherhood program of the nonprofit organization Family First. Along with our fatherhood program, All Pro Dad, we exist to help you love your family well. Subscribe to our daily email, the iMom Minute, by going to imom.com/subscribe and get tons of great ideas, insight, and inspiration. The iMom podcast is hosted by me, Abby Watts, along with Susan Merrill, Megan Tigner, and Chloe Blumenthal.